Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2. So I hope everyone had a lovely start to the meeting. And today we have 3 concurrent sessions after our plenary, and the student rep candidate lunch and also poster session. So just a quick reminder for everyone to put your posters up if you haven't already. And before we move on to the plenary session, I'm just going to invite Seth Claude-Pierre to come up to the stage if he's here to talk about the nomination task force.
All right, good morning, everyone. Real quick here, just wanted to tell you a little bit about the nomination task force and what we're doing here. So building off of the great momentum that Mike started yesterday with regards to DEI within our community, Mike implored us all to get involved and do something. And this is something that everyone in this room can do, is join our nomination task force. So Mike showed the statistics yesterday of the gender disparity within our field and how it's not representative of the population on the whole. And what's even worse than those statistics are the statistics of people being nominated for awards within our field. So as recently as 2017, within our SPA community, there were 16 nominations for AGU Fellow, and they were all men. And so that's a bad thing, and we want to change that. And so that's what we're doing here at the Nomination Task Force. We get together as the award season ramps up in December, and we just try to identify people within our community from historically marginalized groups who maybe have been overlooked for awards. And so we try to facilitate the nomination of those individuals for AGU and other awards. And so it's a great service DEI thing that you can do. It's a great networking thing for more early career people to interact with more, I guess Mike called them seasoned researchers within our field. So just something you can do. There are websites there, the QR code. There's a poster this evening that I, myself, and other people involved with the effort will be standing in front of. So please join us. Yeah, question, Lynn.
I just want to say that there are 2 SPA early career awards, 2 Boston awards, the Impact Award and the US. Nominations, I want to have, we had 0 nominations of any sex or any gender, race. Please nominate people. We've extended the deadline to July 8.
Yeah, I'll repeat that.
Okay.
Yeah, so thanks, Lynn. So Lynn's pointing out that a number of awards within our community, within the SPA community, are woefully undersubscribed year after year. And the US and the International BASU Award, which are great early career recognitions within our community, so far this year have received 0 nominations. And so please, chat with Lynn, chat with me, chat with anyone involved with the SPA leadership about how you could go about submitting an award. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So welcome to the stage with Lisa Winter to give the Geospace GEM update from National Science Foundation. Where do we go full here? Here it is. Control L. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And it's really great to be here in person. I know a lot of
sorry, I need to interrupt for a second. Tony, we need to get out of PowerPoint and fix the screen share because we're not seeing her slides. We're still seeing the PowerPoint with the previous slide.
Thank you. Stand by.
Just that's me. That's not what we want.
Please share the whole screen.
Oh, okay. So that was correct. Is it working now? Or are we still sharing the other one?
For some reason, we still have the PowerPoint.
Let me stop share again.
You probably need to, end the share and then start a new one.
I did stop it again. Is it, if I share again now, is it,
Try it.
is that working?
I'm not seeing it yet. Here it comes.
We're not sharing the full screen?
Nope, it's coming through now. It was actually okay. It's just taking a very long time because of the bandwidth.
Okay, let's leave it there. It was working.
Okay, are we good to go then? Okay, perfect. So it's really nice to see everybody in person, and I know a lot of hard work has been done, particularly as the GEM program officer. I saw a lot of great research going on during these past few years, and so much work by the steering committee for GEM, the meeting organizers. I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work you did during this whole time, and it's so great to see you all in person. So on behalf of NSF, I'm going to give some updates, and we do have quite a lot of updates. If I can find out how to advance the slides, there we go. As you all know, we've had a lot of staffing updates for one thing, and we're from the Division of Atmospheric and Geospace Sciences. We support the GEM meeting. We support the student travel here, and we have a lot of great research from all of you in the community that we support. And here are the faces behind our team. And please reach out to any of us if you have any questions. We're always happy to talk and help to support this great community. We have our division director, Candace Major, is in an acting role, so we expect to have a new division director soon. We have our new section head is Alan Liu, who was the agronomy program director. You all know Chia-Lin has just come and joined us, and she's now going to be leading the magnetospheric physics program, where I'm shifting over to the SHINE and solar terrestrial research program. I'll still be working with you all and managing the GEM conference as well. Shawn will be talking a bit more, and we're both going to give you some exciting updates about the program. We are really excited to have Huang join us as well to work on data infrastructure and geospace data. Of course, there's so many issues surrounding that, so we're so happy to have her. And Chia-Lin is also helping with that initiative to try to come up with better solutions for how we store and share our data. She's currently in the acting role as agronomy. And then we also have Mangala Sharma for the Space Weather Research Program, and Roman Makarovich is our Geospace Facilities Program Director. Fiscal year 21 in terms of budget was really good for geospace and for supporting a lot of great research from this community. I also want to mention, it's not on the slide, we had the highest budget for geospace ever last year, which was really wonderful. We had some money from the coronavirus stimulus, the ARP funds they were called, and so that gave us a MAG budget of 10.5 million last year, which was the highest ever. So things are in good shape. We had a lot of new awards. We had some new solicitations go out. Chia-Lin's going to talk about answers a little bit. That was one of our new things that we could do with this increased budget. And I don't have it on the slide, but our whole division as a whole, our funding rate was 56%, which is really fantastic. But it also means that we're not getting quite as many proposals coming in. So one of the things we're really happy to be here to talk to you guys about behind the scenes as well is, please put in your new ideas for new proposals, because our funding has been pretty strong, and we're looking for really great new ideas. some of the new things that we're talking about. I think our slide is a little bit, there are some little technical issues here, but we're really excited. NSF is a sponsor for the decadal survey, and we are supporting this from a number of programs at NSF, geospace, but also in astronomy. The plasma physics program and the polar programs as well are all working together. And we are really excited. This decadal will have a lot of new things, like a state of the profession, which is really important for defining what will be, the health of not only the science for the next 10 years, but also the community and the people. So all of you, and supporting early career in particular. So that is really exciting. And for NSF on the decadal, we're also really looking for new ideas on research infrastructure. So we really encourage the community to come together and come up with new ideas for the next generation of ground-based facilities, and what they can be, and what kind of new breakthroughs we can make with that. We need at NSF real specific recommendations, because the competition is so difficult for our large facilities. This is a graph of the number of submissions of proposals for the mid-scale research program, which is the program for the next generation of major facilities. And you can see geo is where geospace and magnetospheric physics are located. And MPS is mathematical and physical sciences. So these are the areas with the most proposals that come in. They're the most competitive. So we need to make sure that we have a decadal recommendation in order to really have a good shot of getting a new facility when we're competing against all areas of NSF. So physics, research, engineering, astronomy. It's really important to get that decadal recommendation to say that the whole community really wants this new facility. Some more exciting news, we have new solicitations that went out. So we have a new solicitation for GEM in addition to CEDAR and SHINE. And Chia-Lin will talk a little bit more about that, but we had our deadline for this new GEM solicitation March 30th. Great.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. And we got a lot of great proposals. We're really excited at the response. As I said, the funding rate has been 56%. For our division. So we have a new call that'll be September 30th. And I hope that the community will come together and come up with a lot of great new ideas to submit for us for that time. Wrong way. So the GEM solicitation had some updates, and I'm really excited to talk about these as well. In addition to supporting work related to an active focus group, which has been pretty much what the GEM solicitation has been the past few years, there's some new exciting areas that we're looking for new proposals in. One of them is connections of the magnetosphere with climate. As we all know, climate change is a real important issue, and we're interested in funding research to understand what the contribution is from higher up in the magnetosphere to climate. And then the other area is machine learning and artificial intelligence. This is a really hot topic, and there's a lot of great research I know here already on this area. And we'd like to see more proposals coming in that use these techniques, in addition to using our observational data sets. So we encourage proposals to include magnetosphere data, incoherent scatter radar data. We have a lot of NSF funded missions that are applicable to the magnetosphere. Ampere is another one that comes to mind, where we're using commercial satellite data to understand the magnetosphere and the ionosphere. And then another really exciting new area that we're looking to support is the comparative magnetosphere studies. And this would be comparing the Earth's magnetosphere to those of other solar system bodies or extrasolar planets. So please get in your great new ideas by September 30th, and early career researchers are really encouraged to participate as well. Another really exciting thing that we're doing, we've been very busy at NSF, is a new kind of lab. It's called an innovation lab or an ideas lab. We're having a lab in September 19th through 23rd in Golden, Colorado. It's on geomagnetically induced currents and power systems. And it's an innovative way of, there aren't going to be set talks. People come together. We have a facilitator that comes from a private company that have expertise in social science and bringing together ideas and people from different fields. So the idea is there'll be a week, all travel for all workshop participants will be paid for. There's an application process. We're sponsoring it between NSF, NASA, and NOAA to really get at that R2O in a new way. Bring people from the research side working on MI coupling, working on magnetometer studies, or anything related to GICs in the room with people on the operations side. And as I said, no set talks, but a real workshop where we can really hopefully come up with new ideas and new approaches on this important space weather topic. So there's a website on how to apply. I believe the deadline is July 15th, but please come and ask me if you have any questions. It should be really a great experience. On the topic of extrasolar planets, we have a new Dear Colleague letter out on, it's called GLOW, Geoscience Lessons for and from Other Worlds. This is another separate opportunity where you can apply as part of the magnetospheric physics program, GEM, CDAR, or aeronomy. And there are a lot of important questions that you can address. Understanding the magnetosphere, how it evolves on other planets, and comparing that from what we know about our own is one of the ways that it really intersects with this GEM group. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to myself or Chia-Lin. We're really interested in supporting new ideas in this research area. And then we want to support, of course, people at all career stages at NSF. So we have another Dear Colleague letter out, particularly for supporting mid-career. So this is 10 to 20 years after the highest degree. But really, it's it's a very fluid kind of definition, so we can encompass as many people as possible. But this is aimed at supporting people who are, juggling research, teaching, leaky pipeline, having a lot of different things at this mid-career level. So in particular, we also want to call out people who haven't been funded by NSF, people who are on soft money, addressing that leaky pipeline, and those who are at non-R1, R2 schools. So if you feel like you're in this mid-career level, please reach out, and we're happy to talk more about that as well. And now I'm going to hand this over to Shawn, who we're really happy to have at NSF now.
Thank you, Lisa. So I joined NSF in January, and now I'm the program director for the MAG and GEM programs as an IPA coming from University of New Hampshire. And I grew up here. It's a privilege to serve the community. Let me know, how do we make it better from NSF side? So another solicitation is for the MAG core program. And this one doesn't have deadline. So you can submit your proposal anytime. And there's also no maximum funding amount, but you're welcome to go see the past awards to get a feeling what's the funding level is. And unlike GEM solicitation, we're not limited to 3 years. Depends on your research, you can go up to 5 years. And during the student day, I also mentioned this to the students that we also have funding opportunity for undergrads, for graduates, and for postdocs. So for undergrads, there are our EU program that most people are more familiar with. And there's also GeoPath. It's a new solicitation to encourage undergraduate research experience in geoscience directorate. And for the graduate students, you are welcome to apply to the geospace section, the plasma physics or astronomy. They all have a slightly different deadline. So that's why I said due in the fall. Please go check on NSF website for more details. And if you are almost graduating and need a job, or you just graduated within 2 years, please consider putting a proposal for postdoc fellowship. In the AGS division, we fund 5 to 8 postdocs every year. So please don't miss your chance. For tenure track junior faculty, you can apply for a career award. For the last several years, we've been having 1 career award each year in our program. So it's a great way to build leadership when you are integrating research and education. The deadline is coming very soon. So if you're interested, please come talk to me and Lisa. Last year, within the geospace section, we have 5 career award winners, 2 in solar terrestrial, 2 in astronomy, and 1 in magnetosphere. And it's to Yixin Liu. If you attended the plenary session yesterday, John already spent a few slides introducing Yixin's new work on reconnection. But in addition to that, the educational part of this career award is he's combining art and science together. So they will be working with artists to make educational animation to illustrate key phenomenon for geoscience and geospace science and also plasma physics. I'm really looking forward to them. We also have a special solicitation called EAGER, Early Concept Grants for Exploratory Research. NSF is always thrive to welcome curiosity-driven proposals. It's not mission-driven. So if you have very interesting idea, let us know. It could be high risk, high payoff, but make sure you reach out to the program officer before you make the submission. We're very happy to announce the Answers Award. It was run by the Space Weather Program. We have received many good proposals, but we can only choose 7. And within the 7 proposals, the MAG program is supporting 3 in the magnetospheric field research. First one is to Huang to further develop the kinetic and MHD model, and to Adam to look into surface charging, and to Li to look at the solar energetic particles. If you have noticed the newsletter or Lisa's talk earlier, we hired a new PO called Huang. She's the data system program officer. Although we share the same last name and we're both from Taiwan, but we're not related. Her primary work would be supporting the data system infrastructure for the geospace section. And we're planning a lot of things, including establishing active collaboration with other agencies, NASA and NOAA, etc. And we would like to sponsor a community workshop to talk about data system infrastructure. And we'll be developing data policy in line with FAIR principles. So hopefully that all the data are accessible. And we'll be requesting PIs sorry, one extra thing to do, to report your data management plan in your project reports. So if you have any thoughts, any questions, please contact either Dr. Huang or Dr. Huang. Oh, so being in NSF for 5 months, I have read quite a few proposals. So if you have written an NSF proposal, or if you have been a reviewer of NSF proposal, you will know that we have 2 review criteria, intellectual merit and broader impact. And we noticed that people would spend 90% of their time explaining their intellectual merit and maybe a short paragraph on broader impact. But you should know that both criteria are equally important. So that's why I'm listing the NSF guideline of what is broader impact that you can include in your proposal. First, advanced discovery and understanding while promoting teaching, training, and learning for undergrads, graduate, postdoc, junior faculty, or even teachers from K-12 who are teaching math and science. Broaden participation of underrepresented groups. If you have collaboration with institutions that are serving female, serving minority, or underrepresented groups in the STEM field, let us know. Or if the PI or co-I or collaborators are underrepresented, please let us know. We should not be Googling your names to figure out if you are underrepresented. And also enhance infrastructure of research and education. We encourage you have collaborations with the industry, with different government labs, or with international organizations, or even network between universities in the US. Broaden dissemination to enhance scientific and technological understanding. We all go to AGU, but we need something else. How do you convert your knowledge you learn from your research and education to general public? That's broader impact. And last, benefits to society. If your research or your education result can contribute to other disciplines, atmosphere, astronomy, planet, other planets, these are all part of broader impact. Okay, just keep in mind to include that and write more than 1 paragraph, please. When you say thank you, when you see thank you slide, you know that it's going toward the end. I want to thank you all the reviewers that has responded to put in their mail-in reviews or being on the panelist. Because of confidentiality, I cannot name who you are, but you know I'm talking about you, so thank you. And for all the future reviewers, please help us to make this very important decision of the funding of our future research. And of course, I want to thank everyone to making GEM a success. First, I want to thank the meeting organizers for bringing us to Hawaii. We have Chris Moikis, Jing Liang, and also Umbe. Where is Umbe? You see Umbe from time to time, but there's also other people who make this GEM possible. Tony Rogers, he's our student, but also our AV specialist. And also our UNH IT person back at UNH, Andy Dolph. You can hear me, I know. And I want to thank the GEM steering committee members, Vanya, Adam, and all the steering committee members. You have no idea how much time they put into this. And thank you so much and make GEM very special. When I joined NSF and tell them my GEM experience, everyone was like, wow, you do that at GEM? We should be following your steps too. And I want to thank focus group leaders. There's so many of you making GEM possible, and the student reps, Megan Lin and Elizabeth Vandergriff. It was a wonderful student day, yes, on Sunday. Thank you so much for your effort. And during the student day, I look at all these young faces. They're so eager to learn. They have so many questions. So I want to urge the focus group leaders, during your session, remember that 1/3 of the meeting is our students. So leave a little bit time for them to, share their thoughts, let them ask their questions. They might surprise you. And finally, everyone, Hope you enjoy the meeting. Thank you so much.
We have time for a couple of questions. Anyone has any?
Yes, I have a question to Lisa. So you mentioned that the GEM program starts deadline for this year is March 30, which is passed, and then you said also September 30 is that annually. Does that include 2022 September 30?
That's right. Yeah. So we are on the fiscal year schedule. So our years start in October, which is why it's a little bit strange. So this one that passed was actually for fiscal year 22, and the next one on September 30th is fiscal year 23, even though it's still in 2022.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. And then the next one is about the mid-career scientist, and you said that one of the condition that eligibility is that on the soft money support, does that include some of the faculty member, although they are tenure track, maybe half of their salary coming from the soft money and another half maybe coming from the university. So do you include those faculties or just research faculties only?
So like a research faculty member, is that what you mean? Or you said tenure track?
Yeah, even I'm sorry. So even the associate professor, some universities, the professors affiliated with the research institution, and then some part of the salary should be based on the soft money that's written on the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious whether this opportunity is open to these associate professor who continuously bring in some money to fill their salary.
Yeah, that would definitely be applicable. And this isn't a separate solicitation, it's a dear colleague letter. So you would submit to the magnetospheric physics program or GEM, and you would just, in your broader impacts, you would talk about how you fit with this mid-career DCL. I hope that makes sense. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, is Patrick Koehn here? There we go.
It's the PowerPoint.
That one?
No, that one.
This one?
Yep.
Might take a little while. Let's bear with us for a second. We're still working this out.
I think it was open before.
Yeah, there we go. Now let me just. What's wrong with this? Okay. Here we go. Just want to turn that off so our online viewers can see it. All right. Here we go. All right, Pat, take it.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. This is my first trip to Hawaii, and I just might not go back. And I know a lot of people say that, but I think my boss might be a little upset with me. We'll deal with it. My name is Patrick Koehn. I am the acting RNA lead for the heliophysics division at NASA. And I'm just going to give you a brief update of some of the activities that we've been doing at headquarters. First off, of course, we have our family photo. This is the Heliophysics System Observatory. This is an image that has all of our missions, all of our active missions, as well as those that are in formulation. So from this image alone, you can tell that we have been fairly busy people. And as I get through this talk, you'll find that this is just a little bit of what we've been up to. I'm certain that you have noticed that the sun is waking up. Okay, the solar cycle 25 is here, and this is a very exciting time for, of course, for NASA and for all of you. But frankly, it's also an exciting time for some of our younger companies, some of our commercial ventures that are out there that are having to deal with a solar maximum or an increase in solar activity for the first time ever. And part of the image I've got up there in the corner is a launch of the some of the SpaceX satellites. I'm sure you heard that we lost a number of them. And unfortunately, that is what happens sometimes, but everybody learned from it, and we are excited to go forward and keep moving on these, making things more and more available to everyone. Now, we've had a couple of very nice mid-X selections recently. One that's going to matter more to y'all, I suspect, is Helioswarm. Now, Helioswarm is a swarm, it's a small swarm of 9 spacecraft that is going to capture the first multi-scale in-space measurements of fluctuations in the magnetic field and motions of the solar wind known as solar wind turbulence. I'm a fan of turbulence, so this is not an endorsement of any sort. I'm just telling you, for me, I'm a fan of turbulence. It's 1 hub spacecraft and 8 smaller ones, all co-orbit in in formation and communicate with each other, and are going to be making some very, very wonderful discoveries in the near future. This doesn't take away from MUSE, which is the multi-slit solar explorer. It's a spectrometer that'll be observing the sun's extreme ultraviolet radiation, and it will obtain the highest resolution images ever captured of the solar transition region and the corona. We are looking forward, greatly looking forward to both of these missions. I'm certain that you have heard of GDC, the Geospace Dynamics Constellation, and we are thrilled to say that we have announced, or we can announce, the start of the GDC mission science team. We have selected some interdisciplinary scientists. I'll just let you all read the names up there, as well as some investigations regarding science instrumentation. These were selected back in April. Now, we also decided to have a competitive phase A selection, or down select, I guess, for a number of the other instruments. So we had so many good ones, we couldn't decide. So we said, well, let's give everyone a year and see how it goes. So everyone's got a year. We'll see how it goes. We're all looking forward to it. It's going to be great. Now, GDC, of course, has been at the forefront of people's minds because of announcements regarding its funding. We are going to see some out-year budget reductions, and that might delay, but only delay, the implementation of GDC. Unfortunately, to support the current and planned PI-led projects within the heliophysics division, those are all of the missions that we are currently flying. The FY23 President's budget does not include funding for dynamic, but this does not mean it's been canceled. This simply means that the dynamic AO has been delayed. And there's a website here that you can check out for more information if you are interested in seeing how dynamic is doing and to get some more background information. We've got some interesting changes in space weather. Space weather is now going to be its own standalone program. They are very excited about this, with the goals of advancing the science of space weather to empower a technological society safely thriving on Earth and expanding into space. They've established the Space Weather Council, which met for the first time back in March. Hermes recently passed its KBPC, and they've selected some interdisciplinary scientists. We've developed a NOAA DoD framework to transition NASA research, techniques, and technology relevant to space weather operations. And we've made some changes to the research to operations to research grant solicitation. Essentially, we are now including the possibility of an additional year tacked on to the end that takes the science that that the project is working on. It helps it make that transition into operations. It's a very exciting thing. There we go. One that I'm reasonably certain y'all will be excited about. We are going to be hosting Space Weather Centers of Excellence. I'm certain you all remember the Drive Centers from a few years ago. Well, this is going to be I don't want to say a space weather version of the Drive Centers, but it's going to be a space weather version of the Drive Centers. And finally, we selected 4 space weather CubeSats. And I'm reasonably certain I will butcher the acronym so you can see them up there. Now, of course, this one is near and dear to my heart, the RNA program. We have a very healthy RNA program. We were able to, for example, select three drive centers. We had originally budgeted for 2 and found that we could actually support a 3rd. So we were very, very happy to be able to do that. We have changed the cadence for our ESIT program, our early career program. Rather than being I believe it was every 3 or 4 years, it's now every other year. So you will be able to apply more frequently to those. We're also continuing to ramp up actually, the dual anonymous programs with our evaluation of proposals, or DAPR, I think is what Mike said yesterday. So we are increasing those, and more, we're adding more and more programs to that every year. Okay, in the near future, I know in Rose's 23, not immediately, but in Rose's 23, HSR, which is our largest research program, will be joining the DAPR program. So we're excited and a little bit nervous about that. That is our largest one. Also, we've got some cross-divisional programs, including exoplanets. We made a couple of selections in 21. Very excited about that as well. Rose's 21 is almost complete. It sounds weird because we're halfway through 22, right? But Rose's 21, it's a bit of calendars are weird at NASA. I'm certain you've realized that. But it's almost complete. We've evaluated 189 proposals so far and funded 68 of those for an absolutely unprecedented success rate of 36%. We've never seen 36%. Last year it was 33, year before that was 30. So we are on a good trajectory for this. And in Rose's 22, we have some new programs. We have some that are geared specifically for AI/ML, including the Heliophysics AI/ML Ready Data Program, or HARD, or HARD program. We also have some others that are responding to open data and open source science initiatives. We shortly will be releasing the AO for the 2024 Eclipse program. These are science projects that are going to be done with the eclipses that are coming up. This is to distinguish them from citizen science programs. We are going to have citizen science programs that address the eclipse as well. Oh, and citizen science, it's right there. We are just about to make selections in our citizen science seed funding program. So if you've got a proposal in there, you should be hearing within the next several weeks. Like I said, we were able to select 3 drive centers. This was very, very cool. We've got the Center for Geospace Storms, SHIELD program, and Coffees. We've spoken with all of the teams. They're all very excited, ready to go. And we are eagerly pushing the money out the door. So you all should be, if you're involved in those, you should be seeing those funds pretty soon. IDEA is a big idea at NASA. Sorry about that. That was terrible. Wow. Anyway, IDEA initiatives in Helio are recognized as a long-term effort, okay? But we're making intermediate and midterm, or taking intermediate and midterm actions, and trying to advance initiatives that are going to push this forward. Rather than read through the eye chart, I'll give you the highlights. We now have a heliophysics IDEA working group with Kelly Corrick and Denise Hill, both co-chairing that. We've incentivized newly selected mission teams to expand traditional communication plans to include outreach. And that includes the Punch and IMAP student collaborations. EASY is planning an extended outreach program as well. And we have projects that are targeting non-traditional audience as well as rural and underserved populations with hands-on hardware experiences. In other words, we're putting screwdrivers in students' hands so that they can put together their own spacecraft and launch them. This is exciting stuff. And that's really just scratching the surface. We are starting to include diversity statements and diversity teams, et cetera, in some of our programs, including the Space Weather Centers of Excellence program. So keep an eye out for all of that. Of course, you heard about the decadal survey already. The decadal survey process has officially started. It officially started a while back, actually. The statement of task and study approach is done, and you can now read it for yourself if you like on the website there. We've got, they are building the committee and panels, and the call for white papers has not been released yet. Now, I taught for 12 years, and most of my students, of course, had a lot to do, many things to keep up with. Well, let's just put it this way. Don't wait for the formal call to write your white papers. Get your white papers done. Get them in. It is likely, and I say likely, that we'll have about 4 weeks after the announcement goes out to get all of those in. So if you haven't started writing yet, please start writing now. All right, now in citizen science, we've got coming up the heliophysics big year. Now, the big year is a birding term. I'm not much of a birder, but some of our folks are apparently. And the idea is, idea behind a big year is basically maximizing a birder's number of birds that they can look at. And here we're going to be maximizing the number of opportunities we have, people have, citizen science folks as well as regular science folks, to check out the eclipse or eclipses that are coming up in late 23 and early 24. You're going to be seeing a lot of announcements on this coming up in the next several weeks, so keep an ear out for that. And finally, this is always the final slide. So before I get to this, thank you for thanking your reviewers and your review programs. I appreciate that. And of course, I'm going to do the same thing. This year in Roses 22, we've got 23 programs running. That's 23 competitions. That's on the order of 130 panels, individual panels. If you have not received an email yet, you will, I guarantee it. Please consider saying yes. We are to helping us review our proposals. We're still doing all virtual panels. Some folks really like those. Some folks really don't. In fact, if you happen to see me wandering around and you have an opinion on virtual panels, let me know. As the acting RNA lead, I can send those up the line and we'll see what we can do. So thank you for the reviewers that we've had, and thank you in advance for the reviewers that we will have. I appreciate it. Headquarters is also looking for some new program scientists. We have some slots opening up in the very near future. I believe it's in the July timeframe. If you keep an eye on USA Jobs, which is where those job announcements always show up, you will see them eventually, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be a very short turnaround. Usually when we put a position on USA Jobs, it is open for three or four days. Okay, so keep an eye out. Once you see it, it's time to get the application materials in. USA Jobs, if you have not used it before, there's a bit of a learning curve. If you have used it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But working at headquarters is a joy. And if you have questions about working at headquarters, again, if you see me wandering around looking at posters, feel free to ask. I'm happy to talk your hair out. All right. We've got a few newsletters that we generally send out. We have Nikki Notes. That's Nikki Fox. That's my boss. She sends out every couple of weeks a short newsletter that lets you know what is up at headquarters. You can stay up to date on your own if you like. The virtual town hall, the address that is listed right there. And we also want to hear from you about the interesting stuff that y'all are doing. We love seeing the results of the research that you do. It actually, for our program scientists and myself, it makes us feel really good about the work that we do because we're the ones helping you do that. Y'all are doing the hard work, don't get me wrong, but it's good to be part of the team. So please let us know if you've got some interesting results, and there's an easy way to submit your results, again, on this screen. And volunteer for a panel. Yeah, we talked about that. I don't know how this got at the very end. Okay, sorry about that. I'm sure you've heard of Parker Solar Pro. We have just recently successfully completed its 12th perihelion on June 1st. It's the fastest spacecraft ever built by human hands. And it continues to amaze and surprise us. I do a bit of outreach as well. And the kids that I talk to love the idea that it's the fastest thing we've ever built and that it's actually going inside the atmosphere of the sun. So Parker's a good machine. Anyway, I won't belabor that. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions you happen to have either now or if you see me out walking around, stop me. I'm happy to chat. Thanks.
If we have time for questions.
Thank you for a nice presentation. I had a quick question that you might have covered, but I think I missed it. When you were talking about GDC and dynamic, you said that dynamic only was not in the president's budget. I thought I remember that GDC also was not in the president's budget. That is not the case?
It was not, dynamic was specifically called out in the president's budget. GDC was not specifically called out.
Oh, I see.
As I recall. So but we were told that out year funding we're going to get a little bit of delay in the out year funding and so on.
Okay. But it is the case that funding for both missions were not actually in the president's budget.
And we worked through that.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
That's what I understand.
Dynamic was not mentioned, and GDC funding explicitly was not mentioned.
Okay.
But it also wasn't forbidden.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yes.
Thank you.
One of the innovations that came along with Drive Center proposals was this two-step method that kind of mimicked a phase A of a mission.
Right.
And we really liked that. We felt it gave us a great opportunity to not only build a team, but form an innovative management plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Could you comment on if NASA found this to be a useful process that will be used in the future, and why that wasn't used in, or why that wasn't brought into the Space Weather Center of Excellence proposals?
But your second question is the one I'll answer first, because I don't entirely know the answer to it. I can find out. The two-step method, we had essentially a phase A, a 2-year phase A in our drive centers where we had 9 or 10. Thank you, 9 centers that received 2 years of funding to sort of put the team together, get things rolling, and essentially produce a second proposal. And from that, we down selected to 3. That was a very, very successful program. That two-step selection really got the community excited It got NASA excited. We saw a lot of really good stuff coming out of the centers. I actually do not know why the Space Centers of Excellence are not going to be doing that. It could be as simple as that's the way the funding is working. There could be more complex reasons. I don't know, but I can find out. So Dan, if you'll, send me an email and I will, I'll talk to the folks that would know the answer and I'll get that for you.
I do have a follow-up question, just like the Dan's one about the phase A. I've been into some mission studies, phase A mission studies, and I found that the family, the scientists with early young kids, and also the scientists with medical conditions cannot meet all of the, instant meetings, or during the review process, it was quite difficult for me to find some babysitters.
Yes.
For just popping up the dates, and then the scheduled date is changed very quickly, and it was very difficult to follow up. So I'm just curious if NASA considered this, because you especially mentioned about the idea or the DI activities in heliophysics. I hope you guys consider these people with young kids and also medical condition can follow those without feeling them miserably during the phase A. Thank you.
We definitely do. I have a young child myself. I have an 8-year-old. Who did first and second or kindergarten and first grade completely virtually. Really didn't like that. Weird. But yeah, so we know we hear you and we feel that. And moving forward, of course, we always try to take that into account and cover as much of it as we can, give people as much latitude as we can to do what they need to do, which is why virtual panels have been the way we do things, at least during COVID. And we're going to continue doing those, at least for the next couple of years or so. But thank you for bringing that or mentioning that, bringing it to my attention again, because I can take that back and talk with Kelly and some of the others and make sure that it's in the front of their mind as well. Yeah.
Okay, I have a quick question here. So I was wondering about the dual anonymous proposal submission experience. So do you have any, you said it was very successful, any recommendations for proposal writers?
Yes, actually, I'm really glad you asked that question. Writing a proposal for the dual anonymous program is not the same as writing a proposal for any of our other programs. The information is the same, of course. And the format is roughly the same. But with a dual anonymous proposal, the proposal writers need to be especially careful not to tip their hand, not to, for example, and I'm not saying that anyone has or would do this, but saying the PI in their expedition to Antarctica for such and such a cosmic ray flight. There's very few of those, right? So a reviewer, an especially savvy reviewer, could probably figure out who that PI was or who that proposal writer was. So you have to be careful with how you are selling, I guess, the work that you wish to do. It is best, and I say this to everyone, it is best to have other people who don't know a thing about the research you're doing look at the proposals that you are writing, because they won't get bogged down in the details of the work. They will recognize, hey, I know this is you, as they are going through, reading through the proposal. Get some help with it. It's a really good idea to do that. But mostly, take your time writing it. It's easy for me to say, take your time writing it. I recognize that. I don't have to write proposals anymore. But take your time writing it, have people read it for you, read it with you. And for dual anonymous, that's just the most important thing to do. Okay. Thanks, folks.
Okay, so our next presentation will be from Howard Singer, and Andy, I believe you're going to take control here.
Good morning, everyone. Let me take care of some of the technical things here first, sharing my screen, and we'll get that done. Let's see. I know it takes a little bit of time here. We'll see if that, let me know when that comes through.
Yep, I'm seeing it.
And I'll go to, okay. And
It'll
let me go
probably
to,
be
full-
delayed for the folks in the ballroom.
Okay,
But it's coming across Zoom just fine. So you can just go ahead and go into the slideshow.
okay. I'm going into
You don't need
slideshow
to,
here.
you don't need to go into full screen. Just go to slideshow. Yep, there you go. And then you can just hide
Click
that
on
notice
this.
at the bottom and command tab back to PowerPoint, and you should be good. Just make sure you can control your slides.
Okay. Okay, so are we still okay there?
Yep, and they're saying they see the slides.
Okay.
So you
So
just
I
want to
will-
start your slideshow one more time.
Oh, yes, okay. Review, I'm sorry about the delay here.
All right, you should be all set, Howard.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it where it is. Okay, well, I wish I was there in person, but I'm really grateful for Chris and for all the folks behind the scenes who have made it possible for me to participate virtually. I'm trying to make my participation as real as possible with this meeting, and it got a little too real this morning when my wife asked me for my badge when I had breakfast this morning. But nevertheless, I really do wish that I was there and that I can be there next year with all of you. So as it says in the bottom right there, NOAA's
Howard?
space weather. Yes.
If we could ask you to hold on for just a moment, we're having a connectivity issue here in Hawaii.
Okay.
Is it not advancing, Howard?
Well, they told me to hold on for a second because they have some problem.
Oh, okay. Okay, then just hold on. I had my sound off for a second.
Yeah.
Just close it. Okay, let's do it again. Oops, what are we doing? Okay.
I apologize, Howard. We're getting things set up on this end.
Okay, I can certainly wait. Sorry for the delay.
Chris, should we join the new one? No. No, okay. See if I can see the date. Yeah, we'll do that. There's a date. Leave it here. we've learned a lot about holding virtual meetings in the last couple of years.
It's,
Those attending remotely and are not yet aware, we're having some serious internet issues at the venue here in Hawaii, which is occasionally causing some minor delays. So if you all will be patient, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Try to reconnect again.
just have something which I close.
It's actually showing the connection here.
What did it do?
Didn't connect.
This is where I took it.
Okay.
Try now. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's not get into the phone. Press the button. It takes a little time to know. Give it to me. It's coming. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's here. It should be. Just 1 second.
That's a good point that we could hear him.
Yeah. That's true. I guess you can go and we're still bring it up.
Yeah.
What do we
Yeah.
do?
I think Howard, if you could proceed without the slides, maybe it's best. But we haven't got the audio now. So we've lost the Zoom, right?
So the audio is not there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah. Yeah. So, do you hear me, Howard?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. If you maybe we can start just with audio only, and we'll get the slides up as soon as we can.
Okay, and
We've got the slides. I mean, for the virtual participants, we've got the slides here. So.
oh, you do have the slides. So you're showing the slides there,
Yeah.
or am I showing the slides there?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I'm
just
sorry?
not available for our virtual participants. That's all.
Okay, so I should use the slides in advance as if I'm showing them, but the virtual participants aren't seeing them.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
Sorry, Howard. Please repeat.
Okay, I should proceed as if everybody's seeing my slides in the audience there, but the virtual participants are not seeing the slides. Is that the situation?
That's correct. Yeah, because we can't working at the moment.
Okay, now are you seeing full screen right now?
Yeah, we are actually. It's come through. It's just a second, Howard. The picture hasn't come through yet, but
So you're not
waiting.
seeing my slides, is that correct?
we see that you've shared, but we don't see the slide yet.
Okay, here, try, are you seeing it now?
Not yet. It took a little while to come through last time.
Okay.
Yeah, still nothing on our side.
Okay, let me try to reshare here and see if that works. If it doesn't, new share here, entire screen, share, and then let me go to view. View slide.
Yeah, if this doesn't work, Howard, right now, we're just going to switch to manual control here and just have your audio.
That would be fine. Or do you have? Okay. You're not seeing the slides,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, we'll just do that. We're not seeing anything here.
Give me one more second here.
I think that. Oh, okay. Try one more time, but I believe that the connection is just not strong enough to send through the slides.
Okay, it says I'm sharing here.
Yeah, you're sharing. I'm seeing your screen share in Zoom. Okay, that just went away.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, look, let's just go to the manual slides because it's not,
Okay,
we don't
so
have a strong enough connection.
Are you able to show my slides there? The
Yes.
ones that I uploaded? You are. Okay.
Yeah, I can see the slides here, so we can just do it that way.
Okay, so you're going to be showing the slides. Okay, I'm sorry for those of you who aren't able to see them. Tell me if I need to stop for anything. But I'll and I'm not sure where you lost me, but I'm just saying I'm really sorry I'm not able to be there.
That's correct.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Howard, to interrupt, but those are online that can't see the slides. You can download them. So go ahead, Howard. I apologize for interrupting.
Well, I'm sorry that this is so much trouble, and I apologize for not being there. As I said, I would really like to be there, and hopefully I can be there next year. So anyway, as you can see in the bottom right of the slide, Safeguarding Society with Actionable Space Weather Information is our mission statement at Space Weather Prediction Center. And as I've said before, many of the things that are done in the GEM community contribute to our being able to provide actionable information to space weather customers. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our partnerships and some of the improvements in space weather services that we're now providing, and in large part, as I say, based on some of the things that are going on in the GEM community. In the next slide, if you go to the next slide, first, I would like to say a few words about George Cisco. You heard a few words yesterday by Vanya and John Durelli, but I would like to also say that George contributed so much to our GEM community, and to me personally. George was on my thesis committee, and George opened a lot of doors for me in many ways. And so he is a great loss to not to his family, to his friends, and to our entire community. There's so much that could be said about what George did. I'm thinking about a couple things specifically. One is his ability to ask questions, ask the right questions when we're looking at our model output that enabled us to draw out the new scientific insight that those models were providing. And so George was superb in being able to do that. In addition, there was a really important link between George and space weather community. And one of those was that in 1995, he came to myself and to Ron Zwickel and suggested that we co-organize a meeting at NOAA of what was then called the GEMS Geospace General Circulation Model, GGCM, the working group of that model, to emphasize the applied aspects of GEM. And that led to future research to operations workshops, and now what is now known as the Space Weather Workshop that's co-sponsored by NOAA, NASA, and NSF. So we have much more to be grateful for from George than I can ever talk about here in this short time. But I did want to show that appreciation and condolences to his wife and to his family and friends. So with the solar cycles, we heard in the previous message, talk is really picking up. In the left side of the figure, we show the cycle 24 and cycle 20, beginning of cycle 25 of the sunspot number, which is at least one way of characterizing activity on the sun. And you can see by the dark blue line, which is the monthly sunspot number, that it's exceeding that red line, and the prediction right now of what was predicted by the NOAA, NASA, and International Space Environment Services prediction panel, this consensus prediction of what cycle 25 should look like. However, if you look on the right side of the figure, what you'll see is another plot which uses the error bars that were in that panel's prediction and moves the cycle 6 months earlier, as we now know it occurred, and as they said could possibly happen, and increase it by about 10 sunspot number. And we see that it perfectly, the green and the blue lines there in that shaded area overlap perfectly. So within the error bars, the current sunspot cycle is right on track. Now, how it's going to proceed in the future, as you can see on the slide, I've hesitated to say here, but we certainly know that at the moment, the sunspot cycle, the monthly numbers are at least exceeding what we expected, but on the average, monthly average, we're getting what was expected. Bit of activity, and one example of that is that our forecast center has given out since the beginning of cycle 25. There were 8 X flares. There were 3 greater than 100 MeV proton events, 32 KP5 or greater geomagnetic storms, and 708 watches, warnings, and alerts since the beginning of this cycle. So it's keeping people quite busy and expected to get busier. And of course, one example of activity in this cycle that really highlights the activity is the Starlink event, which was just mentioned in the previous presentation. And Starlink, SpaceX lost 38 of 49 satellites that were launched on February 3rd. And that was due to increased drag during their orbit raising. Starlink and SpaceX deserve a lot of credit, first of all, for putting satellites into a very LEO orbit before getting them into their higher orbit. And they're in this parking orbit so that they can be deorbited if they're not functioning correctly and not contribute to space debris. Starlink also, and SpaceX, has been really forthright coming out and speaking to us and to others about what happened and to learn from that experience. It really wasn't a very large geomagnetic storm. It was a G1 or a G1 to 5 scale, but they had never experienced such activity since they started launching these satellites. And even from this minor storm activity, the thermosphere expanded and the neutral density was higher than what they expected from their models. So there was a need for improved models that take into account the weather that's actually occurring. And we're working with them along with others on that, on improving the models that they're using. If we go on to the next figure about customer growth, this just shows in black the solar cycle, how it's been proceeding, and the growth in customers. And this is just another example of how customer growth in the blue shaded area continues to grow even during minor solar cycle, as you see there in the middle, and as we're even during solar minimum. But we always have to be prepared because large events can occur at any time during the solar cycle. And so what do we do about that? Well, one thing is observations. And this shows the new Space Weather Observation Program that will be a very comprehensive program led by a part of NOAA called NESDIS, the National Environmental Satellite Data Information Service. And this group within NESDIS led by El Sayed Talat, who many of you know. And the figure illustrates the importance and the goals of making measurements in LEO, in GEO, in highly eccentric orbits, and even certainly continuing our L1 observations and partnering to include new L5 observations in the future. These observations are critical to our models and to our understanding of space weather activities. If we go into the next figure, GOES 18 products, and this just highlights one of the space weather set of observations that we have. GOES 18, which was GOES-T before launch, was just launched a few months ago in March, where it will be replacing the GOES 17 satellite in next January. And we're working together with our partners at NOAA, at NOAA NESDIS, and the National Centers for Environmental Information to make those real-time data available to you, as well as the historic data through NCEI. And by the way, you can find these links to this, to these things in the Gemstone, where I've included the links in the write-up I did for Gemstone of NOAA activities. If we move on to the modeling, again, just one model that is really important, I think, to this GEM community, and the work GEM does is important for our improvement of models. And this shows two models that we have running. First of all, on the bottom left, what you see is a new, we've had a geoelectric product based on input from ground-based magnetometers and from collaborations with the USGS for those data to drive a geoelectric model. And now that's being expanded into Canada through collaborations with the Natural Resources Canada. In the top, you see the predicted magnetic variations that we get from the geospace model, which is through a collaboration with the University of Michigan. And now what we're doing is, instead of using the ground-based magnetometer data to drive the geoelectric model, we're using predicted magnetic variations from the geospace model to drive the geoelectric model. And in the top right, you can see a comparison at a mid-latitude station near Fredericksburg. It's a little bit over a day of data. And you see both the predicted and the nowcast variations in the geoelectric field. And although they don't capture every little variation, the overall agreement is really pretty good. And we're working on more validation of that. I showed this last year. I don't think you can see the movie, unfortunately, and that's what I was intending to show here. But the main point here is that we're doing what's now been highlighted often as model data fusion. And so we're incorporating model output from the elevation model of the probability of aurora in the auroral regions and combining that with observations from the NOAA low altitude satellite and the VIIRS instrument, from which we can see the aurora, and seeing how the actual observations and model line up together, and how important this is for validation and for providing us impacts on communications, navigation, power grids. The next figure is one example which talks about NASA human space flight. And it's just one example of the collaborations between NOAA and NASA, and there's collaborations with NSF as well, and the USGS, as I just mentioned. But this talks about an interagency agreement that has been signed just this year on space radiation environment support to NASA for the conduct of all human spaceflight. And I've listed a few of the things there, but we've also recently signed a memorandum of agreement, or maybe it's understanding, with NSF and with NASA and with DOD on research to operations to research. So there's a lot of collaboration going on among the different agencies. Now I want to say a few words, if we go to the next figure, on promoting research and observations of space weather to improve the forecasting of tomorrow act, ProSwift, which you all know about. It was signed in October 2020, signed by Congress, or established by Congress. And it should be the policy of the US to prepare and protect against social and economic impacts of space weather by supporting actions to improve space weather forecasts. And that includes research to operations, advancing space weather models, which is particularly important to the GEM community, and engaging with all sectors of the space weather community. And what's new here is the influence, I'm sorry?
Sorry, Howard, we lost you there for just a second. So maybe just start with the identifying research needs again.
Okay, so identifying several of the things are identifying research needs for promoting research to operations, advancing space weather models, which is certainly important to the GEM community, and engaging with all sectors of the space weather community. So if we go to the next slide, just highlight a couple of the things that are happening with regard to carrying out this pro-SWIFT activities. One is space weather research to operations to research. And this is a multi-agency effort. It's NOAA, NASA, NSF, DOD, but it also involves the commercial community and involves the research community, because what this is the top of the funnel there that you see on the right is bringing basic research and applied research down through that funnel into an operational environment at the end. And these are just some of the activities that need to be carried out. And you can see that on the right-hand side of the funnel, we're advancing the research capabilities from basic research and what we call the readiness levels at NOAA and what are called AULs in NASA, application usability levels. But the basic thing is to reach different levels till we advance it to the high usability and operational capabilities. Now, I just want to say a couple words about that middle section there about a test bed and validating models and advancing them to operational use. And if you look at the next slide, one way to do that is through NOAA test bed experiments. As you see at the bottom left, there are many, this is just one example of test beds within NOAA. This is the hazardous weather test bed. And it shows that when you have these test bed experiments, you bring together all the different stakeholders, the professors from academia, the model developers, the forecasters, researchers, and bring them all together to attack a particular problem. And emerging concepts and new technologies for improving space weather prediction are tested and accelerated in research to operations and informs operations to research. And we're going to have our first testbed experiment in September 2022, which involves a lot of the community, including CCMC, and is able to, and it's going to be focused on the effectiveness of current space weather, International Civil Aviation Organization products, and identify priorities for improvements that can be implemented in the future. We go to the next figure, and I'm getting near the end here. One of the other things that's called for in the Pro-SWIFT Act is a space weather advisory group. And this is an opportunity to bring together, as it says in the first bullet there, 5 non-federal representatives from academia, from the commercial space weather sector,
Howard?
and from the end. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to let you know you are cutting in and out a little bit. So we might be asking some questions later for clarification, but I don't think there's much we can do on our side. So apologies for that.
Well,
Please continue.
I'll appreciate that. Maybe I'll speak a little slower, but necessarily cut out some things to get through to the end. So
Okay.
the main point of this is that the Space Weather Advisory Group has been convened to get input to the Space Weather Operations and Research Mitigation Subcommittee to get through to them the input from academia, commercial, and end users. And the first thing that group is doing is carrying out a user needs survey of space weather products. And this is building on some previous work that has been done for NOAA by Apt Associates a couple years ago. If we go to the next figure, it just highlights some of the areas that they're going to be looking at. And if we go to the next figure, it just talks about some of the activities in that user requirements survey. And I think I'm going to go past this since you're having problems with various things. But if we go to the next figure, I think you all will recognize some of the committee members that come especially from the research community, but also the committee members from the commercial sector and from the non-governmental end user perspective. So this is going to be providing a very broad input to the space weather program. There's also another committee that's been formed that I don't have a figure for, which is a National Academy Roundtable, which is complementary to this activity. And those people have been selected and named, and you can find them online. I want to go to the last figure. And the last figure highlights the Space Weather Workshop, which we held in just the end of April this year. The theme this year was collaboration, advancing the space weather enterprise. This meeting is co-sponsored by NOAA, NASA, NSF, and organized by UCAR. It had a huge registration of 1,223 participants, including 161 graduate students and 52 undergraduates. I like to highlight that we had 50 nations involved and say that's 30% of all nations in the world. So that's pretty incredible. We had student sessions, and I want to mention that diversity, equity, and inclusion were a very high priority, both from our organizing committee, and as you can see from just the oral presentations, the high percentage of the talks we had from a very diverse community. Next year, we're hoping this is going to be in person in Boulder, April 17th to 21st. So I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties, but I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. And I look forward to your questions either now or send me those in writing.
Okay, do we have any questions for Howard? We have one question, Howard, at the moment.
Hi, Howard. This is Bob Lysak. Wanted to ask about this Starlink event. I mean, you said that that there was a space weather warning. I think it was on January 31st, or a watch, and yet they launched anyway a few days later. Was there? Do you have any information about whether they knew about this warning or this watch, and ignored it, or do you know what happened?
Well, I can say two things about it. And one is that this was not for a very large event that we were warning. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that they were running the MSIS model, and that didn't show them that they, had the potential for increased thermospheric densities and drag that was going to affect their satellites at this altitude. But I will say that now, and they've never launched into conditions that, even though they were minor, never launched into anything as severe as this minor event. So, but now we're in touch with them, and there's a great dialogue back and forth, and I know other organizations are also working with them. And so I think they will be taking space weather into consideration more than was done on this event.
It's always good to learn from your mistakes, yes.
All right, one more question for Howard from anybody?
Thank you for the nice talk under this technical difficulty. This is Hyunju Koehn. You showed that the geomagnetically induced electric field map, and you show the whole America, but there's a missing state there, Hawaii and also the Alaska. So I'm very upset not seeing those two states. Is there any other model available to see what's happening there? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Hyunju. First of all, let me say that the advantage of having been at GEM for 30 years is that I recognize people's voices. So I heard you, I heard Eftahir earlier. I recognize everybody who's talking. So that's one good thing. Sorry for leaving out Alaska and Hawaii. Our geospace model actually predicts anywhere on the Earth. And so, but there is certainly a emphasis on what's going on in the North American sector, and we do have to reach up to Alaska.
Okay, thanks, Howard, and sorry for the technical difficulties from our side too.
Okay, well, thank you, and I apologize myself.
Okay, so our next talk will be from Shawn Young. Welcome on AFRL update.
So good morning. I've realized as I've been sitting here listening to the other talks that there was something remiss about my talk that I want to just try to mention really briefly at the beginning. And then I promise to hurry. I know that the break's next and you don't want me to go too long here. So one of the things that I didn't address in this was our work with the community and how the community can be involved with us. So we have a lot of, every summer we have summer student program for the students out here who are interested in coming and working maybe in an operational or more operational environment. We're a lab and we're not the operational component of the Air Force, but we work closely with them. So we have everywhere from high school students to undergrads to graduate student opportunities. And then, of course, we have opportunities that happen throughout the year for graduate students and for postdocs. So for the students who are looking for their next, where they're going to get their next opportunity, those, come see me. I don't have slides for this, but you can certainly contact me and I'll be happy to give you information. Also, we've got, for those doing research, we've got the SBIRs, SBIRs, and SITRs, and I don't remember what that stands for, but that's more for academics working with a small business. And we have opportunities where you can both address a call from a BAA that we put out there, and you can also go with what's called the SpaceWorks and AFWorks have every year, at least once a year, I think now, where you can just go propose ideas to them. And we get a lot of ideas that come through them. Not very many of them are from this community, however. We get a lot more people who are trying to solve space physics with artificial intelligence. As well as the AI and ML. And I encourage you to look at both of those venues for proposing. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some highlights from Space Force, our work with the Space Force and at AFRL. These are some contributors to this talk: Jonah Coleman, Michael Starks, Bob Johnston, and Ryan Hoffman. But I want to first start by trying to put some context as to where we do our research, or what our perspective is, and that comes through the Space Force. And so what is the Space Force's perspective? Well, the Space Force was formed, and the only reason that the DoD is in space is because of other governmental and commercial interests, and we need to be there to protect those interests. So this slide tries to summarize some of that perspective. In 1969, we had about 1,500 objects in space. We were concerned with orbits. Geosynchronous was our primary concern, but we had lunar orbits of concern, as well as other Keplerian orbits, and there were only about 7 nations in space. Today, we've got tens of thousands of objects in space, human operated as well as automated. We've got geo and Keplerian orbits still. We're thinking about going back to the moon. And there's about 90 nations, as well as commercial interests now in space. And we expect in the next 10 years or so that there's going to be millions of objects in space that we have to be concerned about. And we're going to have extended our concern from within geosynchronous orbit clear out to the moon. And that's not just for governmental concerns, but that's also going to be for commercial and other non-state actors by that time, we expect. Okay, so for the Space Force, that means that they suddenly have a lot more to be concerned about with as far as their space domain awareness. Not only are we extending further out in space, but we're looking closer in. What was previously a place to park your satellite and let it be pulled in by drag back into the atmosphere and lost is now a region where there are reasons to have operational orbits, commercial orbits maybe even. It just requires that you have a satellite that can have constant thrust. LEO is becoming very congested, as I illustrated on the last slide. Of course, we have several commercial interests that are putting up thousands and thousands of satellites there. There's other government satellites going up as well. And then MEO, which historically has been mostly avoided. We have GPS and other satellites like that in that region, is a very harsh environment, and so we've avoided that, but that's going to become more useful. And of course, GEO, where we've got most of our satellites, and then XGEO. And XGEO is a entirely new problem. It's a huge regime. There's all kinds of orbits that we have to be concerned about. They're very complex. You may have noticed on the previous slide, there was the Koehn of shame. The Koehn of shame, if you don't know, is a region of space that makes it very difficult to track satellites. On our side of the moon, it's because the moon is so bright. On the other side of the moon, well, it's because the moon's in the way. And so all of these are issues to the Space Force, and so where does the environment fit in? Well, this audience, I'm sure you can see lots of ways in which the space environment fits in. The Space Force approaches this, or the AFRL, which supports the Space Force, in our particular directorate, which is the Space and Vehicles Directorate, supports this with several different efforts. And as you can see, one of those is the space environment. So in the space environment, we take all the research that we do. We're scientists. We like to do basic research and solve the fun problems. But of course, we need the whole community. And as you can see in this diagram, we draw from many different organizations, many different researchers. We pull in the data and we put that into what we call the exploitation box. And in the exploitation is really where our bread and butter is at AFRL. Here we take the research that you all do, and we try to make that available and used appropriately by the Space Force. Sometimes too many people know that this is a problem. They go to an AGU meeting or something like that, see a talk and decide that they have to have that. Our job is to try to help them understand where this new cutting edge research fits in that they want, and also to help them develop it and use it in an appropriate manner. And then we fuse our stuff in with the other organizations, because there's a lot of decision making that goes on when it comes to making a mission work and defending our space interests. And so we're just one of the part of that. And so we need to fuse ours, see how they all work together, and make applications which then can help make it possible for them to make a reasonable course of action, or choose a reasonable course of action given our stuff. Okay, so that's the Space Force perspective and how we fit into it. And I forgot to mention NRL fits into that as well. Okay, so what are some of the things that we've been doing? One thing that has been a big concern and has been talked about some I think in this community as well, are the high altitude nuclear explosions. So what is that? That's when a nuclear head is detonated above around 50 kilometers, where it's high enough to eject intense radiation belt into LEO orbit, and creating a new artificial radiation belt that wasn't there before, and that the LEO satellites that are in that region were not prepared for. That can give them up to 1,000 times the dose that that they expected and that they created it for. Of course, naturally occurring radio waves will, VLF will eventually get rid of that radiation belt, but that could take way too long for the satellites, whose lifetimes can be diminished from what were expected to be years to days. So the question that we have been working to answer is, can we speed that up? And of course, that has to, then we have to ask the question, well, is it better to do that from ground or from space? And we have to address the entire realm of possibilities. From ground, it's usually cheaper. We can more easily build things on the ground. It's faster, easier, but there is the issue of the ionosphere, and we have to be able to get that energy. We can create lots of it down here, but we have to somehow get it through the ionosphere and get it to the right place and for the right amount of time. From space, the pros are that it's easier to generate it in space. We get it up there, we can put it in the right place. We don't have to worry about the ionosphere, and we can keep it limited to the LEO region where the belt might be needed. The cons is that power is precious in space, and we may need some long lead times to get a satellite up there, and that can be expensive. So to answer the question of which is better, ground or space, and even if this is doable, we had to work through a large modeling and simulation effort. And you can see that this, in one sense, goes from right to left and left to another sense. The arrows are telling you go from, left to right, and the arrows are telling you going from right to left. So to solve this problem, we first started with looking at the orbits that we needed to protect. What orbits were they? Looked at how the radiation belt dynamics affected that, and then what wave propagation we would need to get at. So as you can see, we're working from the thing we need to solve backwards, and then we built the models to work forward from the nuclear explosion on the right back towards our satellites. And it was a very long and difficult process, and a lot of effort went into that. But in the end, we still only had models, and so there needed to be a massive validation campaign. And as you can see, this campaign included chamber experiments, ground transmitters, aircraft, space missions, and thousands of hours of computation to get that answer. Part of the that was the DSX mission. And you may have heard of before the demonstration and science experiments. It was launched in July of 2019. It lasted about 2 years. It was put into a MEO orbit with a 5.3 hour period. There were 3 experiments on it, with the primary experiment being an experiment where we injected wave power into the magnetosphere and looked at what actually happened. So to support that, we needed a space weather experiment as well. We needed to look at the particle populations, and this one was a dual purpose. We're in a MEO orbit that isn't well mapped, and we needed to, we had a lot of instrumentation on specifically to map that, but we also had instrumentation on there to look at the loss cone and see if the transmissions were making any difference. There was also a space effects mission that was led by NASA that had looked at how different on-orbit degradation of instruments happen. Mike Lamone will be happy to know that we're doing a special issue on DSX that's in the progress of being created, if you didn't already know that. And we're preparing now a bunch of data sets to be released. They'll be released with the NASA Space Physics Data Facility. Some will be starting as early as the summer, but it may take a year or so to get them all out. There's two types of data sets that are coming from that. One is a wave data set. So we have a broadband receiver, and as you can see, some of the data from that. Here in the top, we did 13 or more than 1,300 transmissions of high power VLF into the magnetosphere, and we were observing the results of that with what's called the TNT. It had a narrow band. The N in that is for narrow band receiver. So there's that data as well. So one of the first things we're going to release is a catalog of the times and details of these transmissions and the release results. We had a nice instrument suite on there that covered everything from tens of EV all the way up to tens of MeV for electrons and hundreds of MeV for protons. Given the time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. But you can see that we had several different instruments, including a CEAS-1. We now have CEAS-3s. The CEAS-1 was due to the history of this satellite, which began, I think it was like 16 years it took to get this one up. All right, another of our efforts to support the Space Force are the AE9 and AP9 model. We're gaining international collaborators and revamping that model. And when that's complete, we're going to transition completely to the new name of the International Radiation Environment Near Earth, or IRENE. But this model, if you're not familiar with it, is an improvement on legacy models because it has so much more data. It has 45 long duration, high quality data. We're able to include statistics, which have been absent from the previous type models. Version 1 was released in 2012, version 1.5 in 2018, and we hope to release version 2.0 soon. Some of the improvements to version 2.0 are going to be an addition of solar protons and a solar sample, a sample solar cycle. We're also going to be adding in the data from the DSX, the final Van Allen probes data, Pamela protons, Proba-V, AMPTY, Skatha, CRESS, and cluster plasma data. So they'll have already have 45 data sets, and we're adding a lot of more quality data sets to it to help it be a better model for designing spacecraft and preparing for that environment. In order to do this, though, we have some needs that we would like to get community help with that will require contributions. To do an 11-year solar cycle, we're going to need to do a reanalysis of 11 years with data assimilation. In order to do a solar cycle variation of the LEO protons, we're going to require data with energy and pitch angle resolved in the LEO altitudes. And to improve LEO electron gradients, we need, again, for electrons, energy and pitch angle resolved LEO data, similar to Demeter, but that's already being used for validation. So we, again, are looking for community involvement to help with that and participate. How much time do I have left? A couple minutes? Okay. This is more of an application of space science to something of interest to the Air Force. I mean, to the Space Force. Currently, when we're tracking satellites with the Space Force, we have what we call dot tracking. They find a dot in space, they write down its location essentially, and that gives us enough information that we can try to avoid collisions. But we're in contested space now. We've had already some demonstrations of satellite, anti-satellite capabilities from different nations, and it's important that we understand better what's up there. More information can be extracted from those light dots. We can do spectral analyses of them, and those can help us identify the characteristics and the composition, even help us understand the age of the satellite. To do that, though, is requiring a lot of groundwork and also some space work. Maybe you're familiar with the MISSI experiments that have been on the space station for a while. We're working with a collaboration with several different organizations, as you can see on the right, I'm sorry, the left, that to create a new one that allows us to not just send up a panel of, so what the MISSI has is a panel of different types of materials that are used in spacecraft development, possible spacecraft development, that are going up, and they're watching the process. In the previous missions, they've just gone up and then come down, and there's no ability to look at the time variation and the aging of these. What this one is intended to do is to be much more systematic. They're not just putting up one panel, they're putting up panels in 3 different directions, the RAM, the zenith, and the the wake directions. And all of those have different aging. They react to the environment differently and age differently. They're also creating cameras and lighting that will allow them to watch them age over time and compare that to a lot of ground experiments that they have done and are continuing to do to try to understand how the space environment affects materials in space and better create satellites, but also with our dot tracking to better understand and be able to identify what satellites are up there, what kinds of materials they're made of, and maybe understand better about what their purposes might be. And with that, are there any questions?
One quick question.
Thank you to all the presenters for these really nice talks. I wanted to ask this question to Shawn, but also all the other agency representatives too. If anything, this COVID-19 showed, the pandemic and disinformation and misinformation are extremely dangerous. And then with space weather, we have a lot of the type of misinformation going on. I was wondering if there's a laboratory-wide or agency-wide or inter-agency efforts to address certain public misinformation and disinformation. On space weather.
On space weather, yeah. I have to say that I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a good question. It's important. I noticed that whenever I do a search on Google on space weather, I get a lot of crackpots coming up along with that. So yeah, that is an important topic. I don't know if anybody else wants to address that.
I'm afraid I don't pay enough attention to social media to see some of the things that Shawn just mentioned, but we certainly like to get the correct information out there.
Okay, thanks for a really interesting presentation, Shawn. And I think If it's not said enough, thank you for keeping the nation safe in a place we might not realize we're being kept safe. My question was with regards to the Space Force. I think we're all familiar with how AFRL does funding for people who want to get involved in related research through the AFOSR. Is there something similar for the Space Force that we should probably be aware of?
So right now, the Space Force is using AFOSR as its so the same.
Okay, sorry everybody that we've gone into the break. We do want to have one last item, and that is to quickly invite our student reps and then focus group leaders to introduce their sessions today. And please keep it as brief as possible. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We want to advertise our student lunch today. So we're having our student representative candidates for the coming year present their platforms, and we'll have that for our student lunch today, starting at 12, the Bluefin room. So please join us for that, all students. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Our magnetospheric sources for particle precipitation and its effects on the electrodynamics of the magnetosphere, ionosphere, and thermosphere groups second session will take place in Alohilani room, this one, right after the break. This one will focus on numerical studies for particle precipitation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. There will be 2 standalone GIC sessions this afternoon in this meeting room. The first session will be about observations of geomagnetic disturbances and geoelectric fields, as well as education outreach using magnetometer arrays. Second session will be about modeling and prediction of geomagnetic disturbances and geoelectric field. In the end, we have interactive discussion on the modeling challenges as well as future activities regarding this new GIC focus groups. So we want your feedback. Please consider joining us. Thank you.
I'll be really brief. Say our radiation belt focus group will have 3 concurrent sessions today. Next session will be a panel discussion focusing on the radiation belt loss, the great debate part 2, and we'll have another 2 afternoon sessions focusing on general contribution talks. So please join us for more discussions.
Hi, everyone. The dipolarization and its effects on the inner magnetosphere focus group will be meeting at 10:30. So after the break in the Bluefin room that's on the 3rd floor. And we'll be discussing the question, what role does reconnection or other plasma instabilities have in producing elementary magnetotail dipolarizations? So we have several discussion leaders that are specifically focusing on substorm onset, looking at auroral beads, auroral electric jets, and fast flows. But we'd really love your community input as well on this topic. So please come being prepared, not just to listen, but to talk and provide your input as well. Hope to see you there.
Hi, everyone. The bar is here right now for energy. So stay in the Bluefin room after lunch because the mesoscale dynamic focus group is going to take place at 1:30 in the same room. We're going to talk about precipitating aurora. We have some pulsating aurora, sorry. We have some very, very good talks from the LAMP mission. So go to the room and we'll have a lot of fun there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's go to the break.